friends, I think it might be time we finally got over our Toyota Prius jokes, because the hybrid I'm driving today gives me a lot of optimism for the future of enthusiast cars. This is the 2022 McLaren Artura, the new V6 hybrid supercar from the familiar manufacturer. Right off the bat, I must say it's quite a curious vehicle. There's a lot going on here. As advanced as it is, it also holds uniquely traditional. Let's get the spec sheet out of the way because I don't really care. 3 seconds, 330 kilometers an hour, and 530 foot-pounds of torque. And all that on a tight 2.6 meter wheelbase in the lightest car in its segment, 3,300 pounds. On paper then, it all sounds pretty good. But what I want to talk about today is the personality of this vehicle. You see, as young as today's McLaren automotive is, it still holds a lot of very traditional values. Chiefly, of course, is the way the car drives. And that's nothing new. As pleasant as it is to cruise around in comfort mode, that's not really what this car is about. Through this divine mountain road, the McLaren shines as a very natural, comfortable vehicle to throw around. And in a first for the segment, McLaren has developed what they call a hot V V6 engine. Splayed out at a broad 120 degrees, keeps the cylinder banks flat and low, and the turbochargers are actually mounted right up in the middle of that. Despite those turbochargers being the same size, you don't get smacked with a frightening or deadly wave of boost late in the rev range. Instead, thanks to its hybridization, the McLaren feels naturally aspirated, in fact. The engine is constantly charging the battery, and that enables the e-motor to deliver consistent torque infill from the lower parts of the rev range. In effect, you get the impact of a smaller turbo. And whereas turbochargers have certain curves to their output, the nature of an electric motor enables the Artura to map out a very smooth transition into those big turbos boost. It's civilized enough at low speeds, but revving past 8,000 RPM and with that linearity of torque, the Artura really does reward drivers who push it and take it up to the red. We feel that intuitive nature in the other controls as well. McLaren is one of the last manufacturers still clinging to hydraulic power steering. It is, of course, 2022, and so it's electro-hydraulic, but the fact remains that you still maintain a far more physical connection with those tie rods than you get in most anything else nowadays. It's nice and it's weighty without feeling like work. Better still, McLaren has held to a simple, no-frills steering wheel. You've got no buttons on this thing, just your paddles, which, yes, you can still knock back and forth. Powertrain and chassis mode selection is within very easy reach, just by going up to 10 and 2. Then, braking as you approach a corner, you've still got a hydraulic brake pedal, albeit assisted with an electronic vacuum pump. And that brings us to a theme throughout this car. For all of the traditional technology that's in it, there's also a lot that's gone very modern, particularly as a result of the hybridization. That the engine is able to turn off and on introduces different challenges. So for instance, we have 2 oil pumps, one driven off the engine, the other driven electrically. Also electric is the HVAC system, which also means that you can run the AC without compromising any power. Electric mode also brings us to some of the other cleverness here. That's to do with the motor itself. Where hybrids and EVs have traditionally used radial electric motors, that is, where the magnets are going around a central rotor, the Artura is the first car to use an axial motor. To use familiar imagery, picture a flywheel with a clutch disc on either side. It only weighs 30 pounds, but that unit puts out 33% more than the one in the P1 did. It's good for about 100 horsepower. The electric motor also affords further cleverness in that it eliminates the need for a reverse gear. The Artura's dual clutch transmission just has 8 forward gears in it. That's it. You need to back up, the electric motor takes care of it. This also means that it's significantly easier to park than some past McLarens. The energetic dual clutch transmission is meant for aggressive driving, and so thinking back to the 720S, parking could be a stressful experience, very jerky as the clutch is engaged and disengaged. Not fun parallel parking downtown. This thing, easy. And ensuring that the braking feels natural despite being a hybrid, McLaren engineers have opted not to include regenerative braking. You press the pedal, you get the hydraulic sensation that you expect. All power generation is done through the engine alone, and it delivers more than enough. Keeping the Artura planted is another industry first for a series production supercar. And that is that the Artura wears what Pirelli calls cyber tires. Instead of traditional TPMS, the tires on the Artura have little blisters mounted on the inside face of each tire. These ones automatically sync up with the car's computer, providing far more accurate pressure and temperature information than you would normally get from a rim-mounted sensor. This better informs how the car's traction control keeps things steady, but more importantly, it also helps to manage the Artura's new e-diff. This is McLaren's first time doing an electronic differential, and it's a lot smoother than what you'd normally find in an M car, for instance. Instead of 3 progressive steps like you might find in more mainstream sports cars, this clutching is actually continuously variable, anywhere from 0 to 100. Of course, that clever transaxle is mounted down low, but with the Artura's hot V wide open banks, the exhaust is mounted up top. This brings several distinct traits, both aesthetic and dynamic. Aesthetically, we notice the body armor looking grille up top, with a distinct chimney coming out the top center of the rear deck. This is part of a very thoroughly considered heat management strategy throughout the engine compartment. Having the catalysts and all of that heat right up in the engine compartment introduces a lot of very sensitive considerations for the design team. The turbo wastegate actuators, which are right there in the hot zone, are protected by actually being placed within the intake. This means that all of that air being breathed into the turbos passes over them and keeps them safe. This is just one example. Even with nodes, I've lost track of all of the little details that engineers have walked me through. This is all well and good and plenty of fun through these twisting mountain roads, as it was on the track earlier today. But I must note that one of the most distinctive traits of this Artura is not supercar brutality, but actually the grace with which it just tours about. Switch into comfort mode, and the Artura is so much more civilized than I could have anticipated. And with these comfort seats, soft and accessible for a wide range of body types, it'd be an easy car to throw a friend or partner into for an outing. Thrilling as it was on track, I'm having some of my most enjoyable time in the Artura just taking it easy. Right now, I'm stuck behind a Fiat Panda. That's fine. It's nice. It's a good car. So where does all this leave us? Well, as I reported in the Ferrari 296, a very different car to be certain. The move away from traits that enthusiasts have traditionally held dear isn't the end of the world. Yes, it's a hybrid, and underfoot, it feels more naturally aspirated than most of the turbocharged ICE cars that are out there. And really, this just seems to be a very livable sporting supercar. And with the ability to extend your warranty up to 15 years, it actually becomes pretty appealing. If this is the future of the brand, then I'm excited for McLaren. The pride of the engineers is evident, and they've made a good car. For Driving.ca, I'm Al Alder. For more enthusiast and supercar news and reviews, follow us online and check us out on socials on Instagram and Twitter.